Hello, everyone. My name is Trish McCabe, and welcome to Conversations from the School of Hard Knocks. This is a podcast where people from all walks of life will be sharing their stories and the wisdom they have gained from their life experiences. In no way is this show offering any kind of advice or counsel. These conversations will be of a very sensitive nature, so please be respectful in your comments, and thank you for watching. Hello, everyone. My name is Trish. Welcome to Conversations from the School of Hard Knocks. Today, our topic is going to be insecurities / low self-esteem and how it's perpetuated in society. Today, I have my guest for the first time to join me, Opal. Welcome, Opal.
Hi.
Yes, it's so cool. I love
I
it.
know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here and very nervous. So if you see me fidgeting, that's
Okay.
what it is.
I'm nervous too, you'd think being in entertainment I wouldn't, but it's a vulnerable place to come out and talk about this stuff for particularly, right? So
Oh yeah.
yeah. Anyways, you and I have had many talks, and the topic of insecurities and a low self-esteem and how it's perpetuated in society. You and I talked, and I think the first point of connection with that idea was our experience going to school
Yeah.
from a young age. And I would I'd be happy to hear your story about your first recollection with what you feel made you feel insecure and made you feel questions and what's the word I'm looking for? Low self-esteem and self-doubt and all of that.
Well, to be honest with you, um, I mean, even in kindergarten, there's little cliques. They you click off together and all that kind of stuff in pre-K. And I mean, I didn't I didn't fit in with anybody. I'd play for a little bit here and I'd play for a little bit there with people, but I never I never fit in. And I was always judged because I had such a vivid imagination. And I'd go overboard with some
Love
of
it.
the playtime make believe situations that we do. And everybody was like, really, that's the way you're going with that? And it all started at such a young age, and it never stopped. To be honest with you,
I
I
think what
mean,
you said about clicks is so huge. That's very important
oh
on this topic.
yeah, I
Not
mean,
fitting in.
even in the smallest school that I went to, there were 100 kids in my graduating class alone, and you know 1,500 kids probably in the entire district. The cliques never quit. They got different, but they never quit. And I never fit into any of them. But the only ones that would accept me were the ones that you'd go and hang out with and you got labeled a drug addict or, a drug dealer or just a juvenile delinquent. But those were the
The
only ones I fit in with.
Yes, the misfits of society, I like to
Yeah.
call it. I identify it so much. Oh, that is my recollection as well. I was very high spirited, high energy as
Oh, yeah.
well, and nervous. And that always set people
Always.
off, and the more nervous I felt, the more they made me feel strange. And yeah, it didn't fit in. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally identify with that. Hmm.
And it's like in elementary school, you had to play a certain way or you had to be good at certain games that they would play or something like that. And then you had PE. Oh, yeah, let's start on PE. In our school, we had and I was always a chubby kid. Um, we had the annual physical fitness week, and we would do stretches and we would do exercises and we would do games. And then we would do the weighing in front of everybody, and then they would do the body mass index in front of everybody. And it was like everybody could see that I was a chubby kid, but then it was on paper. So it was just, I was judged because I was always a chubby kid. I've always been bigger. It is what it is, but you don't do that to kids.
Yeah, you get out the yardstick in front of everyone and measure everyone against each
Exactly.
other. As
Exactly.
I'm right there with you. That was I was really skinny, extremely skinny, and hyper, high strung. Um, so, and when I would get nervous, I would stumble, and so I was deemed, a klutz, clumsy, uncoordinated, or whatever those various labels they give you, and that plagued me up until my senior year in high school, till I realized, hey, wait a minute, it's not true. You
Yeah. I was clumsy too. So, I mean, I was the chubby, clumsy kid. Nobody wanted to play sports with me because I couldn't throw a ball, couldn't hit the broadside of a barn either. I never fit in as far as the sports were concerned. I never fit in as far as the kids were concerned. And that honestly plays a big, big factor in developing your own personal identity.
Yes. And
And
because
then,
you don't fit in, and they're
absolutely.
stating it and showing that you don't fit in, and it's a difficult cycle because, like, you're like this little kid and you're going to school with all this anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
which only perpetuates more of it because
Mm-hmm.
people pick up on that and that awkwardness. And the more you try, the more I found, the more I tried, the more I would say something off because I would try too hard to want to get along. And then
There was
you'd
always a
really get,
joke.
oh yeah, yes.
There was
The
always a joke
joke
that I
thing.
had that I would always insert my mouth,
Oh,
open mouth, insert foot, clear up to the hip joint, because I would always say something that people would turn around and look at me and be like, "To what?"
exactly.
Yeah, that just came out of my mouth. Yeah, what can I say? But yeah, I mean, you weren't you were judged. I mean, everything that you did was scrutinized. Everything that you did was scrutinized. And I mean, in general, kids are mean.
So mean. And so, I mean, unfortunately, I had a lot of very bad experiences with teachers that would, mine was that I had a learning disability. So
Mm-hmm.
the most torturous thing was, getting called on to answer a question, from the teacher.
Yeah.
Of course, they would call me Patty, which I never liked. That was never my name. It was Trish, but they would call me Pat or Patty, which was torturesome because it was done mean-spiritedly too. It was,
Yeah.
and so that was horrible when the teacher would call on me and ask me a question, and reading was extremely difficult for me. So I struggled, and then they would embarrass me in front of the whole classroom. Of course, the whole
Yeah.
classroom would be laughing and that kind of thing. So that was another way in which I was kind of pigeonholed,
Yeah.
a learning disability or slow, or those things they tell you about yourself. Anything like that on your end, when you were in class, you would experience.
I would I have problems speaking in front of people, which is why this is just my anxiety is through the roof right now. But it they would have us read chapters out loud, and I would always stumble over my words. In my head, I can read them perfectly, but reading them out loud is a different story because everybody's
Yeah.
watching, everybody's listening.
And there's
And
that.
you stumble and they snicker and they laugh. And you try to turtle. You're just like, oh God, I can don't no, no, don't look at me.
And it's
And
traumatizing. That's
it is.
very it was very difficult for me. I took it to heart, you know.
I did too, to be honest with you. I took it to heart. It was something that even now I I'm 33 years old, and I still have a hard time reading out loud to people, you know, even people that I do trust. I go back to the turtle mode and I'm just like, no, I'm going in my shell. Don't look at me.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I still do that with my boyfriend, you know. I I get tongue-tied, the whole tongue-tied thing, yeah. And the more you try to get out from underneath it, it's difficult.
the,
This is great. This is a really great stuff because I mean, this is the stuff we all grow up with. This is the stuff we experience of having to quote unquote fit in.
Mhm.
And
And then we get into middle school and high school, and that's a whole different ball game. But I mean, it starts so young,
it starts so young. Yeah, all
and
the
it's
which they make fun of you and you
Mhm.
know, if you're even remotely, and then of course if you're awkward, it shows and they kind of use that
Absolutely.
against you, you know, too as well. And when you go through that, you know, you start to believe it, right? And you
Oh,
start to carry it with you, you start to internalize it.
it becomes part of your self-talk. Absolutely. Why are you so awkward? Why are you so weird?
Weird.
Why did you
That was a
say
big one.
that? You know, um, I got I got to the point when I was in high school where I grew up in the generation where we had MP3 players and CD players, and I'd earbuds just so I didn't have to talk to people because
Hmm. Stay in
it,
your own little world.
yeah, you
Yeah.
know. And then, oh God, you get ridiculed if you dress out in front of people. You get ridiculed if you go behind a shower, and shut the curtain and dress out, in PE. And then, you're sizing yourself up to these kids. And I mean, I wasn't rich. If anything, I was on the poor side. I didn't have money to go buy the lacy underwear. It didn't fit me anyway. They didn't make it for, bigger girls. Even now, everybody's like, oh, well, they make it for bigger girls. No, they make it for busty girls, but they don't make it for the plus size women.
And you just can't win, you know? I was
Mm-hmm.
skinny, so I was bony, knobby knees, you know, duck feet. I look like a boy. I was told I look like a boy. And it's like you just can't win, you know?
No,
It's so funny here. You know, you were picked on for being larger than other children. You know, I was picked on for being smaller, and this really, and this perpetuates and on into junior high, high school, and college, and
oh yeah.
into the work scene. And the word that you said, I think, is clicks. I mean, that's huge, huge.
I mean, the cliques thing, you have the rich kids that hang out, you have the jocks that hang out, and it's not just the men jocks, it's the girl jocks too, because you can totally have the girl jocks. Doesn't make them stupid when I say this, but this is just the label that I'm using to, identify the cliques. And
Yeah,
then you have the stoners, and then you have
the
the
academics.
the academics, and you
Mhm.
have the misfits, and then you have those like me and you that really didn't fit in anywhere. So we kind of had to, we we had to play a chameleon quite a bit just to make it through high school.
It's so interesting. Yeah, you know, the friends that I did have were you know, the troublemakers, pot
Mhm.
smokers, you know, in high school. The one thing that did help me was I was in choir, but we were the geeks of the geeks. They made fun of us too, you
Yeah.
know? So we were the outcasts, and so yeah, and I pretty much stuck to myself because it's even in the choir community they had their own thing, and I didn't really fit in that either.
Hierarchy, as you would call it. Yeah.
Hierarchy, yes, yes, pecking order or whatever. Yes, it's so, yes, exactly. And So, I mean, I really didn't have a lot of friends. I was kind of on my own most of the time. I mean, I would make friends with our situation was we were poor, so we moved a lot.
Hmm.
So we were also on top of that the new kid
Yeah.
on the block, and that comes with a whole set of other, you know, of just having to get to know people and start all over
Yeah.
again and try to build some friendships. And then I finally would, and then we'd move again. So that even exacerbated it for me. But yes, thank you so much. The click thing and all the various clicks um, that kind of segregated people into these
Yeah. I mean,
factions of
it
groups.
did. And then, God forbid, you had a crush on one of the pretty guys because, they would play with your emotions. They would use you for certain things,
Hmm.
but yet they loved you like a sister. But
Yeah,
then,
or they when you would there would be a social, like at lunch and everyone's
yeah,
together, they would ignore you. They'd give you
completely ignore
attention
you.
when nobody was
Absolutely.
around, and then you'd get the shine on. Heaven forbid they
Absolutely.
should be
And
seen talking to you.
that continues as well, well into adulthood,
Oh,
because then at
yes.
that point you're going, it, single female. I mean, I'm not the skinniest chick in the world, not the biggest chick in the world. I'm me. And, at certain different points in my life, I've been comfortable with the way that I look. And, you go out with friends and there's this cute guy that starts talking to you, and you're like, in the back of your head, you're going, he's too good for me. He's out of my league. And you start tugging on your clothes, and you start trying to cover up your jelly rolls. And, you know, that's not okay. Nobody is out of anybody's league.
Yeah. And that this is something we've talked about, the word competition and
Absolutely.
how these standards are put upon us that we have to meet in
Mm-hmm.
order to belong in society.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
if you've been told you don't meet those from the time you're really little, you're not. It's a challenge to go into the world with any kind of confidence, any kind of
Mm-hmm.
positive sense of yourself. You take that in and into society as you're not good enough. You don't measure up, so to speak.
Absolutely. I
Like
was measured
sports.
too much. I was measured too much, if you
Yeah,
want to get
yeah.
technical
That,
about it.
oh,
But yeah,
yes, for sure. Like, I understand that. Yes,
I
me
was
too.
16 years old and a size 16. And most of the girls that I went to school with were size 2, size 3, maybe a size 10. But I was one of, size 16. And it played a lot, because you'd go out with the girls that you were friends with at the time, and they'd go to the mall, and they'd all be buying these cute jeans and all this kind of stuff. And yeah, they're cute. I'd love to buy them, but they don't make them in my size because they stop at 14, like
Yeah.
Gap
The
and
one
American
size
Eagle.
fits all thing, the
Yeah.
model thing. And I've talked about that. What was really confusing for me was that I was so thin growing up. And then once I
Mm-hmm.
got into high school, I put on a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was so confusing because I thought, okay, now I've got some, meat on my bones. Nope. They use that against me too. I was chunky, fat Pat, and even my PE teacher, that's what he used to call me, Fat Pat. And because I wouldn't dress out. And then he wondered
Yeah.
why I wouldn't dress out. It's like, you tell me I'm fat. Why would I want to put on clothes and
Yeah.
reveal even more of my quote unquote fat for what?
Yeah.
But actually, that was my senior year in high school, and it pissed me off. So I went, really? And I said, I can outrun anybody here. And I did. And then I was like, I have endurance. I didn't know that was the strength that I had, and I didn't even know that was an important one, because after I
Yeah.
failed physical fitness, and I think
Yeah.
I didn't try. I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I'd just be a failure. Mark me off as a failure. All an F in physical fitness. Up
Funny
until
thing
high school.
is I failed mine my freshman year. I didn't take it again until my senior year, and I was pregnant. So I just got to walk the whole time. So I do understand, but I kind of got out of it my senior year by way of pregnancy.
Wow, I couldn't imagine what that must have been very difficult. Yeah. Did you get I'm sure did you get the comments on that whole end from
Well,
people?
here's the thing. I was dubbed the Virgin Mary throughout all of high school
Jeez.
because I didn't have sex. I didn't even have boyfriends. And the first guy that I got involved with, the first guy that I slept with, I got pregnant. So I left my junior year
Hmm, that's
not
tough.
pregnant, and I came back my senior year pregnant. So, yeah, when we did the sex education, I was the example.
Oh,
That was
boy.
interesting. That
Ugh.
was interesting.
I mean, not that I care. I know how it was, so I know how they could use anything they can
Oh, yeah,
to make you
they
feel
do.
uncomfortable. Because that's that's the world that we live in, unfortunately. The
It is.
constant, having to measure up to something one way or the other,
Absolutely. And
right?
it's still like that in adulthood, to be
Oh my
honest with
gosh,
you.
yeah.
And I'm not going to say that it's any worse, but it ain't any better. You know, you get judged by how many mistakes you make rather than how good of a job you do. You never get the compliments. You always get told, "Oh, you screwed up on this. Oh, you screwed up on that."
Scrutinization,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I
Oh,
am lucky
yes.
enough to be at a job now where it's not that bad, but it's pretty heavy. You know, I've been at other jobs where it was like that. I've been in other situations where it was like that. And again, that competition comes into play because unfortunately, I'm not going to fight somebody to be an alpha, but people automatically assume, mostly women, that when I come into a job, that I'm immediately going to try to butt heads and be alpha. So I get to make enemies just by breathing.
Oh, well, and also too, if you have any sense of yourself and confidence, or not even confidence, you're just relaxed and you're like okay with yourself, people get threatened by that. They misinterpret it.
They do.
Because that's what they do. If they're coming from that place, they're gonna think you're that way too,
Absolutely.
competitiveness and all that. And like we said, it's perpetuated in society as a whole on so many levels, this idea of competition. Sports
Absolutely.
was a big one in school, which
Oh
was a big
God,
one, is a
yes.
big one in our culture as well.
And yeah, all over the
Really.
world there are
Mhm.
sports events that, you know, you have people that like one team and their team plays this team and they bicker and fight just because they like two different teams. And it's like, why? You don't even know this person. What's the point?
Yeah. The thing about competition for me that I don't particularly care for, never have. I'm in the music industry, and uh, uh, going out into the music industry can be stressful, especially if you're a girl. You
I can
gotta
imagine.
look good, and you gotta be able to perform. You gotta have confidence, and thankfully, my vocal ability was enough to carry a lot of things for me. But
Right.
even that would make people uncomfortable, and
Oh,
competitive and jealous. We're jealousy, and it's such a shame because I mean, what's considered good is a subjective thing, right? I
yeah.
mean,
Hmm.
we've talked music, and you know, not everybody likes Whitney Houston. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're
Some
absolutely right.
Yeah, but if you're in a contest and Whitney Houston's what's on the table, all of a sudden it's like you don't measure up. It's like, so you're
Absolutely.
having to bat yourself against someone else's standard, if I'm making any sense, that
No, you're absolutely right. You make perfect sense. You have to start living if you're in that type of environment, you have to live to other people's standards. And that's another thing that plays into self-esteem. When you don't measure up to other people's standards,
You're
who
inhibited.
cares? Absolutely.
You go into the world inhibited and unsure,
Mm-hmm.
low self-esteem, insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have talked about that. I mean, that's not fair.
Mm-mm.
Um, we did the radio show, and the guy was talking about, what if this other singer came and she was better than you? And it's like, right there, I don't know that he understood exactly what I was getting at, because there is no one better than you. Like I said, Whitney Houston is really good, but
Right.
so is Olivia Newton-John, or so is Joni Mitchell, or what's the name of that group? The girls, Indigo Girls.
Mm-hmm.
Some people love the Indigo Girls. They're not really into Whitney Houston. They'll say, but I don't really like her. She sucks,
Right.
But it's like, that's your personal taste. So how are you going to put a measuring stick that's for everyone when there's all these different types of beauty and different types of
Absolutely.
talent and different levels of skill? And just because you're not good at baseball, you might be really good at, I don't know, bowling. You know what I mean? It's
Absolutely.
And so, but if you've grown up with this standard put upon you, and you're not able to meet that standard, you're gun shy, and then you won't go for anything.
Oh
You become
yeah.
really inhibited and self-doubt, low self-esteem, and gun shy, and
Oh yeah,
pull back.
absolutely.
Yeah.
You hold back. You're afraid. First of all, you chip away at pieces of yourself and you lose parts of yourself
Yeah.
because you believe that they're not perfect, because we are given this perfect standard that we are
Yes.
supposed to live up to. And mind you, it's just from the female standpoint. That's what we can discuss on, because that's all we know. We're given this perfect idea that we're supposed to live up to this perfect image. We're supposed to get married. We're
Yeah.
supposed to have kids, and you're supposed to do it in that order. You're supposed to marry your high school sweetheart. You're supposed to have a successful job. You're supposed to have a
Society
degree.
standards. Yes,
Absolutely.
successful. And the word successful, and what is considered success. And I had a wonderful talk with a friend of mine today about that, of, you know, um, and so when you're doing that, right? When we're out there and we're having the kids in the house and everything we're told we're supposed to have by a certain time and all those other things. And, you know, so many people aren't happy
Nope.
because they don't
Nope.
really, they're just doing it to keep up with the Joneses. And meanwhile, they're miserable. A lot of
Absolutely.
times, right? A lot of times you meet people in your jobs and whatever, and you sit down and you talk with them and you start to get to know them. You'll find out that what they wanted to do was not even close to what they were doing, what they dreamt of doing, like art, creativeness, anything. Maybe not even art. I mean, let's say they wanted to be a plumber, but they were told
Yep.
plumbing, oh, you're a girl, you can't be a plumber. Who knows all these limiting things in society
Absolutely.
standards that says that what you can and can't be, or what you should or shouldn't be, all the shoulds and shouldn'ts. And I mean, it's no wonder so many people are not doing with their life what they really want to be doing because of this
Absolutely.
way of operating. This,
Because they had families and they had to do the secure job and all that kind of stuff, which I totally get it. Single mom, I got it 100%. You have to have a secure job in order to provide a life for your offspring. Got that. And your family. If you have a full on family, absolutely. You definitely need to have a secure job. But even if you don't get to do what you really want to do to make the money, it can still be a hobby of yours.
yes,
And so many people, I'm just as guilty. So many people have thrown off their hobbies because it was a kid's fantasy.
yeah, it wasn't realistic. Like,
Yeah.
I have a family member, and the spouse gave up music because they felt there was, quote unquote, no money, no security. And this person was a phenomenal singer and musician. And
Yeah.
it's so sad. Like, they gave up everything to
Yeah.
be with this person and to live this life and to have the kids and the whole. Yeah, you see people like Diana Krall and uh who is she with? She's with another famous musician. They travel on the tour buses with their children. And you say, how do you do that? Well, we homeschool. We spend a lot of time with them.
Absolutely.
They get to see what our life is like and be a part of our world. And it's
Absolutely.
wonderful. I mean, they just didn't buy into that, what they were told as far as pursuing their dreams. And but yeah, so yes, competition is a really big part of, I think it's pretty much everything. I mean, I'm looking at my list here and I've got,
Everything.
yeah, I mean, I've got monetary status, physical traits, academics, your taste, your attire, your taste in things, of sports, politics, um,
Everything.
religion. I
It
mean,
all boils down to competition, and competition can be a major self-esteem inhibitor.
yeah, because you think about like the Olympics, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I think they're a little bit better on that end, is that a lot of them want to see if they can break those records. They're really, if you sit down and ask them, they're competing with themselves because the last time they did a tournament, they did this and they wanted to see if they could beat it. And I like
Which is
that.
good. Yeah.
Competing with yourself is really, to me, the only important competition that there
Yeah.
is. Improving yourself, bettering yourself in any way that you can. And but yes, so you know, it's so sad because so many people are insecure and it they don't even know it. Yeah, they really don't even. It's so I think of a Tom Petty song, the opening line, it's called My Love Will Travel or something. Anyways, he's the opening line of the song is, "You never had a chance, babe. So good looking, so insecure." And you would think, why? If you're beautiful and you meet some of the most beautiful people and they're most insecure people that you know, because there's always going to be someone prettier on
Oh,
the
always.
spectrum. So you're waiting for that to happen. You know what I mean? You're waiting for the next prettier person to come along because that's what your value is based upon, your physical traits. And
But here's the
this,
thing, the prettiest person in the world is still subjective.
and then
That's the thing.
that's the power in this. This is why when the guy asked me, what would you do, if a better singer came in? I'm like, huh, well, what's better? A better according to what? What's the scenario? This is,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's like, and if people did consider that better, that's their personal taste, you
Right.
know? But the hard part about that is when there's standards put upon us, like clothing, like a modeling clothes. You and I, this is a big one for us. We're both hourglass figures, and so to find clothes to fit somebody like that.
Man.
I mean, the 50s was great. It was made for
Yeah.
women, curves. But
But then you were wearing a dress the whole time, you know.
and then right, that was, pants didn't come in till, I don't know, the 40s, the end of the 40s,
Yeah.
early 50s.
But it still was taboo until about the 60s.
Yes. It was
So
only allowed in certain settings, like horseback riding or
absolutely.
whatever. But and then it was like at some point we had to like go work with what we had. We had to find clothes that fit our body, because the trying to find, I mean, so many girls have eating disorders for this reason. They
Absolutely.
they think they got to fit into these clothes, and it's such a
Demi
shame.
Lovato's song,
Mm.
I Love Me, comes to mind. I shared that one with
Oh,
you.
yeah, I love that one. Yes.
And, and it says, very opening is looking at all these magazines telling me what I'm supposed to be. Bingo. There it is.
And it's everywhere. It's in commercials,
Everywhere.
TV shows. You will see the scenarios of them being picked on. And then let's get back. Then we get to the comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy can be, downright
Oh, comedy
abusive.
is brutal.
You
I
know,
mean, it's funny, don't get me wrong, but it's brutal because a
it
lot of them, they will pick one person out of the crowd and they will single them out and they will pick on them. Or they over exaggerate their life just for a laugh.
right, or they'll, um, bring up a trait or any kind of anything
Mm-hmm.
they can use. Like, God, I don't know if you've ever seen the weenie roasts or the roasts. Is it a weenie roast? What's the roast where they get
The
roasted?
roast.
Yeah. I was like, man, some of the things and of course, it's kind of cool because, they laugh at it,
Well,
but
yeah.
a lot of times, I mean, I've
Sometimes
seen,
it hits a nerve.
you can see them go, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And then
Yeah,
they'll laugh it off. But when they go, they're done with the show, they feel
absolutely.
bad. And that's our form of entertainment of picking on somebody to oh, he's so funny. And it's a fine line. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to, bag on humor. It's just mean-spiritedness is a different thing. It's
It,
the
yeah,
it's the
it's
intent.
the intent, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's a killer of self-esteem too. I mean, again, it all comes down to competition.
Yeah, it really
I
does.
think of I think of Mean Girls right here. And that's just a perfect movie. Or Jawbreaker. All those movies in the 90s.
What was the
She's
Reese
a
Witherspoon one? The in
Cruel
in
Intentions,
Cool Intentions, but there's another one, and she did a sequel to it.
Legally Blonde.
Legally Blonde. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Where she had to prove that she was smart. And it's funny. I remember talking with a friend, a coworker years ago. She was like, "It's so sad, the smart girls want to be pretty and the pretty girls want to be smart, And I'm like, why does there have to be a division? Why can't you be both? I mean,
Exactly. Exactly. And it's funny, you know, I'm learning now that I'm an intelligent person. I've never viewed myself as a babe. I always viewed myself as an intelligent person just because I like to do research. I have a problem with spouting off random facts that nobody knows. So it's like, even now, I can sit down and try to have an intelligent conversation with somebody. And, most of the men are just like, I don't know how to take you. And that in itself is a killer. It's like you can't have both.
yes.
And if you are an intelligent person, it's like you put people off, which is again the competition part.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, because I've even caught myself doing it too. You sit there and have a conversation with somebody and they start sounding like a know-it-all. You kind of take a step back and you go, wait a minute, really? I sound like a know-it-all half the time. I don't intend to, but I do. And it's something that I'm working on, but a lot of people get put off by it, but they don't stop and think that maybe this person is just anxious and they run off at the mouth. Because 9 times out of 10, when I do that, it's because I'm nervous.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. I do that too. I very much identify with that. But I think that it's passion. If you're really passionate about something and you speak with,
Absolutely.
conviction, people will be put off by that for sure.
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Doing this podcast, even sometimes when I tell people about it, and they ask me about it, and I'll be very forthright. They're like, "Whoa," they think that I'm standing on a podium, and it's like, no, I just that's who I am. I'm a very not outspoken. I'm very passionate. I get
Right.
excited about these things that I care a lot about. So, and that, and
I know
that just goes
there's quite
across
a
the
few
board, doesn't it?
there's quite a few conversations that you and I have had that you felt the need to apologize
That's a big one. Yes.
because you think I'm going to get upset because other people have gotten upset with you, and that's just who you are, and I love you for
They just think that,
it.
you're overzealous, or you're too much,
Absolutely.
you're intense. That was the one
You're
that I've gotten my whole life.
too much and too intense. Absolutely.
And then, I
Across the
mean,
board.
you develop all these things. How do you function in society with all this constantly going on with yourself of don't be this, don't be that? You know, be careful, and, just constantly watching yourself to a point of,
Constantly walking on eggshells. Yeah.
yes, eggshells. Yeah. And not knowing, yeah, it's really, and then that's why we're having this conversation. Cause yeah, I mean, the competition thing of, you know, um, through the media, through school, through education, all these ways in which you have to measure up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And competition gives us this illusion of winners and losers. And what is that? I don't, I've never, related to it. I thought, why is he okay? He's a dishwasher, or he's not a lawyer, so he's on the lower end. Like, we are talking about human beings, right? It's like,
Right.
where did we get this idea that, a human being could be measured like that, and in such a way that's downright abusive to me? Very abusive way of
Well, I mean,
operating.
if you think about it, it's been that way since the dawn of time, honestly, because you had the kings, you had the people who worked under the kings, and then you had the peasants. So I mean, it's a dynamic that has been there since the dawn of time, and unfortunately, nobody really wants to question it because we don't know life as we know it is going to end. You know, you get
Yeah.
that kind of response. But to
Yeah.
be honest with you, it is something that needs to be evaluated because from the dawn of time, we've been many people have been told they're not enough.
Yeah, I think of that favorite song of mine, Bruce Hornsby, "That's Just the Way It Is." It's one of my, I think I wanna play it at my funeral, honestly. He says, "Hey, little boy, you can't go where the others go, 'cause you
Yep.
don't look like they do." And then the next line he says, "Oh, hey, oh, man, how can you stand to think that way? Did you really think about it before you made the rules?" It's like, who are you to tell anyone else what they're worthy of? And this is
Absolutely.
and this creates this, to me, a very abusive society of,
Absolutely.
you know batting people down, batting people against each other, measuring them against each other. I've been in many bands, and some of the singers, they would have said, "I'm not as good as you." I'm like, according to who? You're
Right.
you and I'm me. It's what Dave Grohl says. You're you, and there's only one you, and that's your power.
Right.
you know if everyone was exactly the same, you know what I mean, it'd be boring. But it's not designed that way. No two snowflakes are the same. We don't have the same DNA. We have completely different original DNA. That's not
Absolutely.
an accident. It's designed that way for individuality, for, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? We talk
It
about
absolutely is,
some
and that's
people.
an go ahead.
Not every guy wants a blonde woman,
No.
right?
That's why the phrase blondes do have more fun is very limiting because I'm not a blonde and I think I've had some fun through the years.
And what is fun, even? What
Absolutely.
what is, and that's subjective. So much is subjective, yet we're treating it like it's not. And then
You're right.
there's the internal conflict that creates in you all the time. You've got this constant
Absolutely.
inner conflict going, I feel like I'm okay, but then you
Yeah.
go out and
Am
you're not
I
as
okay?
such.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you're like, oh,
Yeah. You have to stop back and go, wait a minute. What? You know, you have to stop and you have to analyze everything, because we can't just go out and have fun. We have to stand up straight. Your hair has to look a certain way. It's supposed to have a face full of makeup, which is crock of shit. And we'll talk about that here in just a
Love
minute.
that.
You know, your clothes have to look a certain way. You know, if you're a bigger girl, you're not supposed to wear certain clothes.
You can't wear anything tight fitting if you're
yeah,
bigger. Yeah, they
but
don't like
unfortunately, when
that.
you are bigger, everything is tight fitting. You know, so it's like, dude, I got to the point where I was buying dude clothes.
I did the same thing. That's that hourglass thing because
Mm-hmm.
they fit you on the hips. So until J Lo came around, and I really appreciated that she did come out with the low rise jean that fit a curvy woman. Heaven forbid I'm a woman. I'm a childbearing creature. Heaven
Right?
forbid I should be curvy, you know? So talk about going against everything that you are, constantly telling yourself not to be curvy. Like I had a friend who was a ramp walk model, and she told me that the models live on coffee and cigarettes.
I couldn't do it. There's a reason I'm chunky. I like my
Same here.
food.
I'm a total foodie. You know, I think about dinner at breakfast time. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right?
what am I going to have for dinner? You know?
I was the kid that we would get in the car, and as soon as we got in the car, we could have just ate. And I'm going, "What are we having for dinner?" You know, I was like, "How are we eating now?" You know,
Yeah,
I
you
like
know,
food,
me too, you know. And
and that's another thing. You know, women are not supposed to like food. We're told, you know, we're not supposed to like food. On the first date, you're not supposed to eat a hamburger. Bullshit. I'm shoving the biggest hamburger in my mouth.
amen, amen. Well, dating is ridiculous because here you are, you're going on this date with someone you don't even know and putting on this facade that by the time you move in together, you don't even really know each other. And
Absolutely.
you're
There's a
like,
reason I'm single. Just saying
yeah,
that. There's a reason I'm single. It's a game, and I'm tired of the game.
yeah,
You know, you
nobody's
have to
perfect.
know. And there's this certain dance that you're supposed to do, and it's not even really a dance. It's just a playing hard to get type situation. And it's like, dude, I got no time for that. I'm a single mom. I'm going to school. I work full time. Nah, what you see is what you get, man. You be lucky if I'm running out in a nappy bun and a pair of tennis shoes and jeans and a dude t-shirt going, sup, we gonna do this?
I love that. I'm a total tomboy, so I love
Oh my
that.
God.
I got along with boys more than I did girls. Girls, you know, I mean, cattiness was rampant in jobs. You know, it's just, oh, you know, you'll get the comments of, oh, you're wearing that,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you know, that kind of thing.
I don't get comments, but I get looks
Yeah, then
sometimes.
there's that.
Because I'm not comfortable in my business casual stuff. I'm not comfortable in blouses. I'm not comfortable in stuff that's frilly and frou frou. I like my jeans and my t-shirts, man.
And here's the
And
thing, why aren't you allowed to wear that? You know what I mean? It's like
professional setting. And I get it. I do. I mean, I understand that. But the other thing of it is when you are a plus size girl and you start buying blouses, they're not flattering at all. You either get something that is too tight and shows every single dip, crease, and crevice that you have, or you get something that looks like a moo.
I was just gonna say that word, a moo. Yeah.
There's no in between. No
It's
in between.
yeah. And heaven forbid you should be comfortable. Like if you're comfortable, you're going to be relaxed in your environment and you're going to be more productive. You know, you're going to be
Yeah.
able to feel like you can move freely and not feel you know uncomfortable and have to you know I think it's I get the you know the attire professional attire thing but sometimes they do take it a bit too far. They have relaxed more over the years,
They
I
have.
feel, on that end.
That's why
Yeah.
I'm really happy with where I'm at as far as the attire that I'm able to wear,
Mm.
because I can wear, my Sketcher boots because they're professional looking. They're business shoes. And I can wear, I don't have to wear dress slacks. I can wear khakis, and I can wear like comfortable khaki material pants.
Like Dickies. I like they're very
Yeah.
comfortable. I like that brand.
Yeah.
Make it good for working because they're strong like a denim as
Hmm.
well, but they're comfortable. So yeah, I totally get that. But yeah, the attire thing is big
It is.
in our society of what's considered attractive and what isn't considered, and the fashion industry, they tell you
Yeah.
what's in, the new in thing, and that whole thing, is I've
I
never
did.
done well
I
with that.
did. Yeah, I did fashion for about 2.5 seconds. And then it was like, nope, I'm off this train. Not going to happen. One of my favorite shows is Sex in the City, and she's talking about
Oh,
Manolo Blahniks. And to be honest with you, the only reason I know Manolo Blahniks is because of her. Otherwise, I don't know Jack.
I love that show. I think it really, but it is because it's New York City and fashion is
Yeah.
brought them all together, and I appreciated that. Being in the industry, the music industry, I looked at it more like an element of creativity. So I would use the way that I dress to be creative, um, and not to belong. It wasn't to belong. I
Right.
just as a form of self-expression. That's
Form of
different.
self-expression.
If
Absolutely.
you like purple, you know what I mean, and you like purple.
Purple's my
You're
favorite
one.
color. I'm sorry, that's why
Yeah,
you got the face.
Yeah, so I mean, wear purple. But to say this is the only way to wear it, and just it's so but yes, I don't want to get too repetitive. Attire, sports, physical traits, and then the monetary status, that's a big part of, fitting in. We were poor, so um and that was terrible because we were living in Orange County, which at the time was one of the most wealthiest uh counties in the United States, and we were treated like second class citizens by white
Mhm.
people, because how dare we be white and be poor? So
Right.
we weren't accepted by our own people, and the minorities didn't like us because we were white. So we were constantly, it was having to find a place in
Yeah.
of all of it, and poverty is a big one. Poverty is
Poverty is huge.
in your sense of self-esteem, self-worth, worthiness, um, because the class system devalues you,
Yeah.
and that's just wrong. That's just
Yeah.
wrong to tell
I
somebody
mean,
and treat them like they're not, like they're second class.
yeah. I can remember the kids at my school, mind you, it was a very small school. I can remember the kids at my school comparing the different types of vehicles that they got when they turned 16. And I'm sitting over here going, I'm still driving my mom and dad's car because we didn't have the money for me to get a car. And I I could have worked at a fast food joint, but when I did that for about 3 weeks, and it started cutting into my study time, and it started cutting into my grades. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. No. So I just babysat my entire time because I could study because the kids could, do their homework and I could study. But, you know, it, we didn't have the money because what money I was making to babysit, I was using to help, as far as bills were concerned.
Same here. Mhm.
So it was like, I mean, I was the kid, and y'all are gonna laugh at this. Anybody listening is gonna completely laugh at this.
Doubt
I
it.
was the kid. I no no no. I was the kid that the mother threatened to ground to get her out of the house.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can identify with that. Yeah, my mom, I actually dropped out of school my second year of high school because I just was so lonely.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting a job at a burger joint and helping my mom with the bills.
Yeah.
And that kind of helped because my mom couldn't stand to see me mope around the house, so depressed all the time. She's like,
Yeah.
go do something, go,
Yeah.
go. I did go back and I made up in my senior year. I made up all the time for all the time. And I still worked because
Yeah.
we had to, you know.
Yeah.
My mom couldn't afford to buy me clothes or
Yeah.
anything, any of my needs. She was a waitress, and working her butt
Yeah.
off and double shifts and everything else just to take care of me and my younger brother and my younger sisters. And I'm singing to the choir. I know that. And
Yeah.
this is a reality for a lot of people. So why are we talking about the majority of people as though they're not worthy and
Right.
they're less than?
Right. And, I'm a single mom. I live with my parents. I'm 33 years old. I'm going to school. And, as soon as people find out that I'm living with my parents, they're like, oh, well, then you must have a lot of money. No, I'm broke as a joke, dude, because I have my own bills to pay. And I also pay, I help my parents out too.
And
So I'm not
that
living
is
scot
so,
free.
this is so great because uh when is that a bad thing? Back in the day, families stayed together and ran their farms together and their businesses together.
Yeah.
When did it happen to where like you're 18, bye, you're out, whether you like it or not? How loving is that? And what and with the economy the way that it is,
Oh,
most
man.
people have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to keep their head above water, especially if they have children. So,
And if I was to be out on my own, I would have to. I would have to work 2 jobs. And that takes me away from her.
and
I
school
don't,
too. Mhm.
I don't want to be, and trust me, I'm not passing any judgment on any mothers who are doing that, because I know not everybody has parents. Not everybody is able to stay with their parents. Not everybody is able to live with their parents. I'm lucky. I know that I'm lucky, and I count my blessings every day. And if I was to move out on my own, I would have to work 2 jobs, and that would take away from her. And that would open up a whole nother can of worms on her self esteem that I don't want to open up, just because I already know what she's going to have to go through as a teenager anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm very blessed to be able to have my nights with her and my weekends. Otherwise, I'd be working 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah. And that's the reality for so many people.
It
And so
is.
we're talking about them, like asking for just a living wage is asking too much. And we don't have to get all into that, but just this whole measuring up in society,
Absolutely.
society's standards it's toxic.
It's bullshit, and it
It
needs to be thrown out the window and
yeah.
reevaluated.
Yes, it really does. We need to come back to the table and
Mm-hmm.
have the real conversations of the idealism and reality, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And what's that idealism all about? I mean, so, and the constantly working to try to keep up with some model of something you a lot of times don't even want, right? I mean, a lot of people go to
Absolutely.
school. I had a friend who went to school to be a lawyer. She was extremely smart and was an incredible singer. And, by the time she graduated, she hated law. She didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
do it. She wanted
Mm-hmm.
to be a singer and she was so good at it. And unfortunately, she became ill and passed away and didn't really get to do with her life what she could have been doing.
Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking. So that's why it's important for us to have this podcast and talk about these things. And because it's time to have the real
It is
conversations.
absolutely time.
We want our children
And
and their children and so on not to have to go through this stuff. Sorry, I cut you
absolutely.
off.
No, you said exactly what I was going to say. Absolutely beautiful. It's
Yeah.
time. It's time for us to reevaluate what we feel is society's norm, and stop allowing other people and their viewpoints to live inside our head. Because at the end of the day, they're not paying our rent. They're not paying our bills. They're not sleeping with us. They're not feeding our kids.
Dan Fogelberg in Phoenix, no more living someone else's dream. I have
Absolutely.
cried too long. Why? Why? Because
Absolutely.
they're not living your life. Like you said, I love that. It's perfect. You know, why should they be concerned with what you're doing? Go fix yourself. It's an inside job anyways, and that's a whole other show
It
we can
is
talk about.
it is absolutely an inside job, and we can definitely talk about more of this in so many different venues. If we really truly sat here and went down the whole rabbit hole, oh, we'd be doing it for hours. We do talk for hours when we go down these rabbit holes.
Yeah, it's so
It
true because it's so many layers to it, and
so many layers to everything.
I would love to come back and do another segment on this. And where
Oh,
we'll go with this, we
absolutely.
can figure that out in between now and the next time because there are so we can dig in on each one of these points. We did cover a lot on the physical traits, but I like to dig in a little bit more, you know, and
Absolutely.
really get into the outcomes that come with these thought processes and the choices that we make. And there's so much more to it. Yes.
I laugh because I have had a self-realization moment this past week that we talked about. So it's like, oh yeah, okay, you're bringing it back to me. Go ahead. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, cool. Well, that's good because that's what I'm after. I mean, and I'm learning as I do these podcasts. I was talking with my friend Rob, who did one of the podcasts with me, and we love that. Just as we're doing this, we're also helping ourselves. We're also revisiting these
Absolutely.
issues within ourselves, and as we go along, more questions come up and more thoughts on how this continues and what
Absolutely.
we can do to create change for the better for the planet.
Absolutely. I've watched all of the podcasts that you've done, the ones that you did with
Uh,
Anna, the ones that you did with Mike, the ones that you did with Rob. And I have honestly learned so much with each and every one of them because I've sat back and evaluated going, I do that, or that's me. So
oh,
I think it's
yes.
beautiful what you're doing. I really do. I think
Thank
it's
you so
absolutely
much.
beautiful.
I couldn't do it without you guys, you know. That's what I don't even like to call it my podcast. I call it the podcast because that's all I care about. You know,
Right.
and my boyfriend, I complained to him so much, poor thing. He really he's so patient and I say, "Why aren't they doing this? Why?" He goes, "Why don't you do it? If you want these conversations, you start the conversation." And I'm like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right."
It's
And
like, oh
he
yeah, I can do that.
I could do
Ah, you know?
that. And here we are. Here, you know, that's how we formed
Absolutely.
our relationship. We met online out based on these principles that we're talking about. And it's like,
Absolutely.
wow, more people need to know this. And
Yes.
we'd like to hear from more people like the radio station. And hopefully those guys, we get a chance to have them back if they change their mind, because I think they brought up some really great valid points. And that's what we're doing
Absolutely.
here is how we can learn from each other, share the wisdom and viewpoints
Absolutely.
and all of that. So, but thank you so much. Thank you. I can't
Thank
say
you for
enough. I
letting
know.
me be here.
And it's I'm excited. I think and I have talked with a few people about possibly joining us. So I am working on that as well.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. To get
Awesome.
some
That would
and
be cool
anybody
too.
you know that you think might want to come in, and they don't have to be seen. Their identity doesn't have to be revealed or any of that. It's about the conversation.
I've
So,
got some
you know,
oars out there for you. I totally
okay,
do. I've
awesome.
got some oars out there. We'll just have to see when they're ready.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. And
Thank
until next
you.
time, I know we're going to talk in between and we'll gather more notes and good examples to give to people. And I'm just looking forward to it so
Absolutely.
much. All
Me
right,
too. Thank
sweetheart.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And again, if you know of anyone you think might want to be on the show, you yourself, again, you don't have to reveal your identity. It's just about having these conversations. Please feel free to hit me up here on the podcast channel. I also have a Facebook page, Trish McCabe. hit me up. I'd be happy to hear what you have to say. And in the meantime, I wish everybody well, and we'll talk soon. All righty.